Well, hello. So it's been quite a while since my last update. It's only because I work in the green industry and spring is always our busiest season, so I'm finally back down to 5 days a week and have a little bit of time to work on the tank once again. The water is a little murky and cloudy right now because I just did some cleaning in there, but it should clear up in no time. Everything for the most part is looking very good. The phosphates have been considerably better, under control. Still just above ideal range, but could be worse. I believe I mentioned in the last update that I would be starting the Reef Moonshiners program, and I have been doing that. So I add 6 different trace elements daily with small syringes, and then I do send out an ICP analysis about every 6 weeks and do some larger corrective dosing on things like fluorine and or fluoride, I suppose. Some of the other things that are commonly stripped from the water very quickly. I noticed within the first couple of weeks that the coloration on a lot of this stuff really improved. Things that were healthy already just started to look better. It was definitely an improvement, and although it wasn't the absolutely stunning, okay, all your problems are solved kind of solution as it's sometimes advertised, it does make a difference. So that's definitely helpful. It also does reduce your need for water changes, which I hate to admit it, but you know, life gets kind of busy, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. Another major upgrade that I've made is changing out my lighting. So I was listening to the Reef Builders Reef Therapy podcast, and Salem was interviewing a guy by the name of Luca who owns and operates a company called Quanta Lights. I believe it's out of Wisconsin, and he makes some very good lighting at very good pricing. He uses the bodies of some cheaper Chinese lights, but then packs them with much higher end LEDs and supporting hardware. So while they may look like stuff you'd buy on Amazon for cheap, the guts are actually really where it's all at. And I've got 3 of them on there right now. They have been running for about 3 weeks now. And I've got 2 that are blue. Of course, you can't see that in the video, but the 2 outer ones are both blue. And then the center one is more of a daylight. And that one only runs in the middle of the day for about 6 or 7 hours, I think. I've got them all set up on digital timers. That's one downside, is there is no app that comes with them. So the timer function is on you, but that's not hard to overcome. There's no sliders or anything to play with different spectrums, because chances are you don't really know what you're doing with that anyway, and probably shouldn't be messing with it. So the key feature that he advertises for his lights is that they produce a lot more violet light, and that is something that most commercial lights are missing unless you're looking at the really high-end stuff like Radions. So compared to those blades, this is a big improvement, and it's way brighter. Now, you might think, okay, well, you know, you had the blades for so long, how come that wasn't enough? And I just, you know, when I had the 20 gallon before things crashed and all went to hell, I had so much growth on my SPS, it was insane. And I actually had polyp extension, and The colors were decent and everything, but the difference was the light was literally a couple inches above the coral because it was such a smaller tank. The 40 here is much deeper, so the light has to penetrate further in order to get to the coral, and as a result, apparently it wasn't enough. So while everything was coloring up again from the additives and all the stuff, ICP analysis determined, I still wasn't having any growth or polyp extension on most of the SPS. And stranger still, I would have growth and then periods of very long pause in growth on a couple things like the Stylophora and the German Blue Monty behind it, which it's kind of odd considering for the most part, other than the phosphates, parameters were fairly stable. Within a couple of days, maybe even just 2 days of having these lights on, all of my SPS was showing polyp extension like I've never seen before. I'm not exaggerating. Even the orange Montipora setosa in the center of that rock, I've had those guys before in the 20, and while they're beautiful, they do not show any polyp extension whatsoever. And now, I'm not going to say that it's all day every day, but certain times a day, even he has polyp extension, which is pretty impressive to me. I'm sure if you have radions or some of the other really nice Kessels or whatever, that's probably something you see all the time, but for me this is a first, so I'm happy with that. I'll show you some of the corals that I have propagated that I will be trading into my local fish store probably sometime in the next week or two. The 3, there's a smaller one in the back, the German Blue Monties, those are doing phenomenally well. Those just came from pieces that broke off of the main colony, so that's good. That Montipora in front of it, the green one there, Spungoides, that came from, it's hard to see with the glare, but right next to that blue clam that looks like all brown, that's all polyp extension. I cut that off just so I would have a backup, and since now the main colony is doing pretty well, I might just let that grow out and trade it in. A lot of these, pretty much all of the Zoas I'm growing up so that I can trade in. This really blue one that's right next to the pagoda, I'm probably going to keep that one because I don't know that the one it came off of is still alive in the tank. The Blastos are mine, I just didn't have anywhere to put them, and the pagoda, or the Turbinaria, is going to stay with me as well. And then my Lava Chalice is doing pretty well. Those mouths are all larger than they used to be before we switched into these lights. So you can see the Acro right underneath it is doing pretty well. It was kind of just barely hanging in there, and now I think it's doing pretty good. The clams are happy. The Acanthophilia is happy. The Trachy or Welsophilia, whichever it is a little stressed out. It seems to do that occasionally. It'll start to develop almost white around the inside of the lip, but it usually goes away in a few days. I really don't know what causes it. The Hippopus clam is good. The Derasa clam is good. So really not a whole lot of bad stuff going on here, which is a relief considering one of my other videos. Hopefully I'll update again soon. We'll see how the work schedule goes. But for now, goodbye.